So I thought of a very creative idea here, right? What if every single player in an NFL draft had an X Factor, was an X Factor player, right? And I was going to make every single player an X Factor player. Then the EA Sports had another idea. By another idea, I mean you can't do that. There's a limit for X Factor players in the game. You can't have every single player be an X Factor player. Just, they don't work like that. So instead, because of that interesting, dilemma, I could only make a certain amount of players X Factors. So I chose to make all the quarterbacks. Every quarterback you see here, except for I think like the last 4 quarterbacks here, are X Factor quarterbacks. So all the way from the best quarterback all the way down this list here. And I say the best quarterback, but I think the best quarterback already got taken. We're, as the Chicago Bears here, we are actually going to be taking a quarterback. And yes, he is an X Factor, even though he says hidden potential. All of the quarterbacks on this list here are going to be X Factors. So we're going to see how good these quarterbacks do in the NFL. Like, is an X Factor ability really just going to make or break their careers? Or are they going to be pretty garbage even though they do have X Factors? Because let's be honest, some of these guys we have on this team, in this game here, they're not really that great stat-wise, right? And while yes, an X Factor definitely helps them out, it doesn't make or break the team at all, right? Alright, so we just got done this NFL draft, and to be honest, I don't think we did really that bad. We got a 73 overall, obviously X Factor. We got another guy here, a cornerback, 76 overall, a 72 overall wide receiver. So we did a pretty dang good draft. But the real thing here is, let's go back to this and let's go through each pick. So the first pick overall was a left end. Second pick was a right end. Third pick was us. So this actually was the best quarterback off the board. Obviously, yes, he is going to be he's going to be an X Factor. We already know that from, what I've been telling you guys. But let's go ahead and go through all of these. So Philip Goldenstein, he's an X Factor. When was he taken? The 5th round. So a 5th round quarterback is an X Factor. Same thing with a 6th round quarterback. So again, this could potentially be that all these guys just end up being busts and nothing special and end up in free agency. Or these guys end up actually having, really great careers, and we're going to see how this ends up turning out. So I'm going to be following these guys. I'm going to be following these guys throughout their careers in this video, and we're going to see how good these guys can play. And does the X Factor ability really change their careers at all? Let's go ahead and get right into it, guys. Alright, so every single quarterback that had an X Factor ability from that draft was signed to a team. Now going through, we have 13 total quarterbacks going into this franchise that have, again, X Factors and have been drafted, as we can see right here. And then we have a total of 6 undrafted players, including a Jets quarterback, Colts, Cowboys, Ravens, Giants, and Falcons. So honestly, 19 out of 32 teams took a quarterback. That's how crazy the, X Factor ability gives these players. So we're going to be simming every single year here and see how good these players do. And we're going to update this as the years go along to see how great of a player that guy actually is. Let's go ahead and get right into it, guys. Alright, so by the way, I have everything set to auto for the Bears. I'm not controlling the Bears in any way because I don't want to be influenced anything. So, for example, let's go ahead and pull up the stats here. The only quarterback to actually play any games this year was Oliver O'Neill for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Surprisingly enough, they took him in, the 5th round, 29th pick. Yeah, they were the worst team in football. And he was the only one who actually got any type of play time in this whole entire year. So the Bears didn't put in their rookie quarterback. Again, I am, auto for everything. So the Bears have full ability to start their quarterback if they want to. But no, the only guy was Oliver O'Neill who actually had a chance to play. And if we go back to his season stats, he did not play for the first... He played week 1, then he got benched. Then he didn't play again until week 6. Then week 6, he didn't really do much. And yeah. So at least he got some stats. I mean, 1,900 yards. Cooper Rush ended up taking over for some of those games. But 12 touchdowns, 13 interceptions. There's a reason why this team is not looking that good. But we're going to go ahead here, guys, and get into year 2 and see if anything changes. And if these guys actually get a chance to play football. I mean, out of 13 picks that got drafted, 1 quarterback actually played, and the rest, not at all. But let's go ahead and wait and see. After usually the first free agency period, when quarterbacks start hitting the market, that's when things get better. All right, year 2, and surprisingly enough, things have happened. So starting off right away, the Bucs took a quarterback with the first overall pick. So they still have their quarterback that they drafted in this draft in the 5th round. He's still in the roster. He's just now the backup. We actually had another player, the Vikings, Amari Curry, who actually now officially got some playtime. So let's go ahead and take a look at what he did, because he actually did play some football. And no, Tyson Baguette did not. But was it the Vikings? Yeah, the Vikings. Let's go over to Bam. 32 touchdowns, 17 interceptions, 4,200 yards for Amari Curry. And again, like I said before, you look at this and, you know, he did not play year 1, didn't get really any play time. And now he really just took off in year 2 and actually started becoming their franchise quarterback. So, and he was, what pick was he? He was a 6th round pick for them. So, let's go ahead and just check this out real fast. Where did the Vikings finish? They won the division at 9-8. We might have our first potential, and I'm going to say potential, you know, Super Bowl caliber type player here. Let's see what the Vikings do this season. Are they going to go to the Super Bowl? No, they didn't. That's kind of disappointing. How quickly did he lose? That's would be my question. Like, did he at least last long in this? Oh, no. Yeah, they lost in the wild card to Dallas. So, let's get into season number 3, guys. Alright, so things have changed a lot. Let's go ahead and get right into it. So, starting off right away, Broncos... Yeah, they actually started their guy after 2 seasons, their 5th round pick quarterback, and he played 17 games for them, which is actually kind of cool. So year 3 was quite the interesting year, guys, because things started popping off in a weird way. Starting off right away, the Broncos, who drafted Sherman in the 5th round, back when we started this, they still have not started him. But here's the ironic part. They actually went ahead and traded for the, which team is this? The Dallas Cowboys for Matt Ray. Yup, the undrafted guy. They traded for him and made him their starting quarterback for the year. So they had a guy they drafted in the 5th round. He's still on the roster. He's the backup. And then they traded with the Cowboys to get their undrafted quarterback and make him their starting quarterback in the NFL. Also, remember Amari Curry, who played 17 games last year, got the Vikings to the playoffs? Yeah, well, they decided to bench him, and they ended up going with Sam Darnold. They picked him up in free agency. I guess they thought that he would be the answer, because in all honesty, Amari Curry only went, 9-8 last year? So they went with Sam Darnold, and they went 6-11 with Sam Darnold. Probably wasn't a good idea, to say the least. The Jets, finally, after 2 seasons, are starting their quarterback, Andrew Worth, who was the undrafted guy they picked up, and he played all 17 games. So, we also have 2 more additions here. Hal Jones went from the Giants to the 49ers, and the Falcons, Doug Gaines went to the Panthers. So, starting off right away, how good did the Broncos do with that, new move that they made? And they actually went 8-9. So apparently the undrafted guy actually had a lot more potential than, you know, their other guy. And the Seahawks went 4-13. So, yeah. And if I am correct here, yes, Steve Cousins was not the answer in any way possible. And the Vikings went 6-11 because they decided that Sam Darnold was their answer over Curry, who honestly looked pretty dang good. And you finally give him a chance, and then you just bench the guy. I mean, I don't really understand the concept. I mean, you know, he got you a division win, and then you bench him. I mean, he did lose in the wild card playoffs. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to sit here and defend him too much. But, you know, listen. I mean, it's just interesting situation, I guess. Interesting situation. And then, of course, the Broncos. Yeah, he had 15 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. He hasn't really developed too well. Even having a superstar X factor when he first started. But the Jets have their quarterback, Andrew Worth. After 2 seasons, he is now their starting quarterback. And I didn't check. What did the Jets do? Are the Jets actually a potential playoff team? Are we going to have our first playoff team? Or, well, I guess, possible Super Bowl team. And no, the Jets went 8-9. So, let's go ahead and get into year 4, guys. And let's continue this streak here. I don't even know what to say anymore at this point. Let's just go ahead and break this down. So, the Bears went 5-12 yet again. The only team that kept their quarterback was the Denver Broncos. They're still sticking with Ray. But here's the funny thing in all this. So, the Jets got Will Levis, so they traded away. Yes, they traded away their starting quarterback, which at this point I gotta figure out where. They traded him away to the Las Vegas Raiders. Andrew Worth, yeah, the guy they took, undrafted guy, who started 17 games for them last season, went 8-9, looked okay. They get Will Levis in the offseason, and then they went ahead and traded him to the Raiders. And the Raiders didn't even start him. So nobody started except for Matt Ray. And also the Jags traded Kirk Clemens to the Cleveland Browns. So we had that move. We had Steve Cousins, who is still technically the best quarterback for the Seahawks, but they're starting their backup, who they drafted 2 years ago, over him for some reason. I don't know why. We also have our first official free agent, no practice squad, which is Hal Jones. He's officially free agent. He's not on the practice squad anymore. The Falcons, actually, Doug Gaines stole it in the Panthers. But Steve Hamilton went from the Ravens to the Rams to the Lions. So he is on his new team now. And let's just see real fast how good the Denver Broncos did. Because, yeah, they went 6-11, man. They're the only team who is currently still starting a quarterback from that draft class. The draft class that had all X-Factor, superstar X-Factor quarterbacks coming out of the draft class. And Matt Ray is the only guy who is currently still starting. And ironically enough, Matt Ray, if you look at it, was an undrafted player by the Cowboys. So let's get into year 5 and let's just see what happens. Guys, I don't even know what to say anymore. We went 5-12. But here's the kicker, okay? The Broncos have now acquired Clyde Stevenson. So the Broncos now have Clyde Stevenson. They also have Amari Curry. And they also have, of course, Matt Ray. And they actually started Matt Ray in 16 out of 17 games this season in this franchise. One game Amari Curry started. And the rest of them, yeah, no. The other guy did not play at all. And I don't even know what's happening at this point. But the Commanders traded for Larry here. He went from the Eagles to the Commanders. And he actually played 17 games. So they finally have a starter there. Steven Cousins played 17 games. So now he's the starter again in Seattle. I guess their stint of trying to go with a backup didn't work. And then as you can see, we have 5 total players who are free agents from that draft class. So it's an interesting run. And Justin Fields is somehow still the quarterback for this team. I don't really know how that is even a fact or a case. But yeah, no. Somehow they're still a quarterback. But the Broncos now have literally 3 quarterbacks from the original draft class that are still somehow here. The Commanders went with Larry here. Somehow he is now their quarterback. They also got Philip Goldstein, who was, again, another player from our draft class. Like, there's so many question marks of what's going on. I don't even know what to say anymore. Seahawks went ahead and got Steven Cousins, or they started him. They, last year, put in Owen Cloud as their guy, and then now they're going away from that. And I think... yeah, Matt Ray, and then obviously Andrew Worth is still a Raider, but he didn't play any, so it doesn't really matter. They actually drafted a new guy, so now he is their guy. So let's take a look at how good these teams did, just in case they made the playoffs. And starting off right away, the Vikings, surprisingly enough, who do not have any guy we care about, so that does not matter. The guys we care about is the Commanders. Where are the Commanders? Yeah, this is kind of what I thought. 6-11 Commanders. Okay, so that's not good for them. The Seahawks, we actually did make the playoffs, so that's good. So we have a 9-8 team, which obviously is Steve Cousins. So they learned to put in their starting quarterback. And then the Denver Broncos, where are they at? 7-10. So let's sim to the Super Bowl and let's see if, potentially speaking wise, Seattle, the only team with a quarterback still from this draft class who actually could do something. And did he win a playoff game at least? None of these quarterbacks in this draft class won a playoff game. And Seattle lost to Minnesota. Let's go year 6, guys. So real fast, just an update, because I actually did mess up my last clip. Bob Rankings, I didn't realize this, but the Bears actually traded him to the Raiders, right? And he went, and obviously 3,100 yards, 14 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. He just went to the Super Bowl. I did not even realize that we traded him because I'm so used to him being on our squad but doing nothing. I wasn't even thinking about, like, what he did. And he actually, sorry, he didn't go to the Super Bowl. What did the Raiders do last season? I'm not sure what they did, but still though, I forgot he actually did go to a new team. So yes, he actually did play 17 games last year, and that is officially 17. So there's another quarterback who is now officially starting after we got rid of him. We got rid of him, and now he's officially starting in the NFL. That's going to be interesting. All right, but let's get to the end of this season. Well, things have gotten interesting, guys. So, starting off right away, as I said earlier, I did mess up, and yes, our old first-round pick quarterback is now currently on the Chicago Bears squad. The Las Vegas Raiders squad. 17 games he played again. We'll look at him in a second. But then going down this list here, we got some other changes. So, Larry is no longer the starting quarterback for the Commanders. He is currently still on the Commanders, but he is not the starting quarterback. But the Broncos traded Clyde Stevenson to the Vikings, and the Vikings now are starting Clyde Stevenson, and he has been playing 17 games last year. Another big change here is that Glenn Bright is out in free agency. He was not signed, so he is still a free agent. We also have Amari Curry, who the Broncos they just acquired. They're now starting him for all 17 games. So I don't even understand what the Broncos are doing, other than the fact that they still have Matt Ray, but they give up on him. So now they're going with Amari Curry as their starting quarterback moving forward. Of course, Steve Cousins is still the starting quarterback in Seattle. And everyone else, as you can see, is, for the most part, they're starting to not be on, you know, teams anymore. And this is not really that surprising. I mean, at the end of the day, sometimes, you know, you make squads, sometimes you don't. And as time goes on, less and less, you know, starters are going to be there. So the Raiders went 10-7. So, you know, the guy we drafted very high, third overall pick, who we never started because we kept Justin Fields. Yeah. Vikings went 10-7. Okay. Broncos went 8-9. Seahawks 6-11. All right. Actually, wait. I think I missed somebody. The Bills. Did the Bills get somebody? Yeah, the Bills. Wait, no. Never mind. That was last season. Completely messed up there. That was last season. The Bills got somebody. But if we go ahead and look at this real fast. Not our awful Bear squad, but the Raiders, like I said before, yes, they're, you know, doing interesting things. They now also have Andrew Worth. So Andrew Worth, the old Jets quarterback, is now with the Raiders. I think he was he there last season? I don't remember if he was there last season, but 26 touchdowns, 10 interception for Bob Rankin. Still can't believe he left us and went somewhere else, and now he's more successful. Clyde Stevenson, 4,400 yards. So he's having a freaking phenomenal career now with the Minnesota Vikings. Which you go back, I mean, look at this. Arizona all those years, and now he's with Minnesota. And awards was he was a 5th round draft pick. Yeah, that's all he really has done other than now being successful with his team. Yes, the Broncos, like I said before, they went with Amari Curry now as their starting quarterback. Matt Ray is their backup. And they also have Ben Miller, who is you know, just a make-believe guy. But it's just oh yeah, let's look at Seahawks so fast. It's just crazy to see these guys. You know, some of them still on NFL teams and currently still making rosters every single season. But really just doing nothing overall-wise when they are on the rosters. So, like, it's like they're on the rosters, but they're not really doing anything. So now let's go to let's actually sim straight to the Super Bowl here. And I want to see if any of our quarterbacks make the Super Bowl. Because I think last year, I think Bob Rankin did win a playoff game. I have to check the footage if he did or not, but Vikings. Okay, so we have our first actual quarterback who's in the Super Bowl who was from our draft class. So it looks like great move, by the way, by the Vikings here to go out there and get Clyde Stevenson. And it looks like we're going to see if he can win a Super Bowl. Can Clyde Stevenson win a Super Bowl here, boys? That's the question. And he did not. He did not. So our first quarterback to possibly win the Super Bowl here in year 6 was Clyde Stevenson, the former 5th round draft pick, and he was not able to win it. So let's go on to next season and see where these guys are. No surprise, we went 5-12, guys. But here's a surprise. So we have even more players on the move here in year 7. So let's go ahead and move this over real fast. But starting off right away, obviously, yes, Rankings is still the starting quarterback for the Raiders. Larry is now officially a free agent. The Jags/Browns quarterback, Kirk Clemens, is still playing 0 games. Sherman, who's been on the Broncos since the day 1, since they drafted him, finally left the Denver Broncos after, what is this now, 7 years with them? He left the Broncos and he actually went to the Commanders, but he's not even the starting quarterback. Clyde Stevenson, yeah, the quarterback last year that took the Vikings to a Super Bowl and they lost. Well, now he apparently is on the Commanders and he isn't even the starter. He's their backup. So you might say, well, who did the Vikings have? No one. No one good. I don't even understand Madden franchise at this point. Glenn Bright is a free agent yet again. Oliver O'Neill is still in the Dallas Cowboys. Going down this list here, Charles Bayless is now officially a free agent. Sorry, not Charles Bayless. Philip Goldenstein is officially a free agent. He was the backup for a long time of Patrick Mahomes. Charles Bayless, who is now a Green Bay Packer, and he's their starting quarterback. So, starting quarterback moving forward for the Packers. We also do, of course, have the Seahawks, Steve Cousins, who is still the starting quarterback. And then we have two players who retired, both of them being Hale Jones and Doug Gaines. So, undrafted players, in all honesty, let's be honest, nothing special there. But both of them retiring. So, very, very interesting. And right here, yeah, nobody. Nobody really that we have is other than obviously... No, but he's not even in the playoffs. So, it's not looking good. It's not looking good for this draft class, guys. This draft class is pretty buns. And just shout out to the fact that we beat the Lions 5-3 in Week 18. Let's get on to Year 8, guys. 1 second. So, we went 7-10. That's a positive, I guess. But let's go ahead and bring up what happened because things got a little interesting. So starting off right away, let me go ahead and actually move this down so we can look at this a little bit better. I now just put all the players who are free agents, I now just put them as the black spot. And I'm actually going to go ahead and take away my face for a second so we can see this a little bit better. But you guys can see, yes, we have some more retired players. So 2 more players retired. The first player was Rent Caldwell. He retired. And also Philip Goldstein retired. Now, here's a funny fact, right? Matt Ray, remember him? Yeah, he got drafted. He was an undrafted player by the Cowboys. Well, he obviously never played for the Cowboys until now. The Cowboys just signed him back last offseason, and he is now their starting quarterback moving forward. That is the most circle of life I could ever think of. He's an undrafted player for the Cowboys, played there for a total of 2 seasons, before he went to the Broncos, where he was a starter for that team for 3 seasons, then with the Cardinals for 2 seasons, and now he's back with the Cowboys as their starting quarterback. Yes, of course, Bob Rankings is still the starting quarterback for the Raiders. Other than that, we do have Amari Curry, who is still a starting quarterback for the Browns. Obviously, yes, Steve Cousins still a starting quarterback for the Seahawks. And also Christopher Bryant is a starting quarterback still for the Buccaneers. But other than that, though, everything else is pretty much the same. We are now down to how many quarterbacks? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 actual quarterbacks on 53-man rosters left going into year 9 at this point. So let's go ahead and take a look at what everyone finished with. So starting off right away, the Vikings went 11-6. That's good for them. Seahawks made the playoffs at 8-9. Wow. Barely made the playoffs there, but nobody else really we care about. That's crazy. Okay, so let's see what the Super Bowl brings us. Maybe it brings us one of the teams we need. You know what I mean, guys? We want to win the Super Bowl. And that, of course, is going to be either the Raiders, the Browns, the Seahawks, not the Falcons, or the Cowboys. And none of the teams we wanted to win won it. So let's go ahead and get into year 9, guys. At this point, it's almost comical to think that we'd do anything more than go than 5-12 for the Bears here. But I'm also not controlling the team, so I don't feel like it's a no on my part. With that being said, though, we do have some updates. So let's start off right away with the simple updates. As I move this over real fast. We have more players retired. A lot of players retired, to say the least here. We got, again, Larry's retired now. We also have Sherman's retired, Bright retired. We already talked about Phillip. All these guys down here have retired. So now just taking a look back at this before I go into the final year, right? These are the only guys that are still actually playing. We have the first round pick, which obviously is the 3rd pick, Bob Rankins. We also have the 4th round pick, who's a 28th overall pick, Kirk Clemens. We have the 5th round pick, which of course is Clyde Stevenson, who is a free agent, but technically he's still playing. He's not retired yet. We have another 5th round pick, Oliver O'Neill, who is still a backup. We have Charles Bayless, who is currently a free agent, but he was a 6th round pick and he's still playing. Actually, let me scroll over. There we go. So then we have, of course, let me see if I can try to get all this in one. And then our next guy we have here who are still playing. Both of these guys are still full-time starters as of the last 4 years. 4 years in a row these guys are starters for. Obviously, they've started more than just 4 years, but 4 years in a row is Amari Curry and Steve Cousin, who obviously Curry's on his third team so far, and Cousins on his 2nd team. Both of them 6th round picks. Absolutely amazing. And then we have all these other guys down here who are retired now. All these guys down here who are retired now. So everyone except for the Andrew Worth is still in the NFL, who was undrafted from that draft. And again, all these guys are still in it too. So we have all these guys still in it, and then we have a couple more players. So let's see how good the season actually went for the players, now that I think about it. No one we care about. No one care about yet. No, Raiders. Okay, 9-8. They actually did pretty good. Made the playoffs. The Vikings made the playoffs. Okay, there you go. Seahawks did not make the playoffs. Let's sim to the Super Bowl and see if it's actually a quarterback from that draft class. Ironically enough, only one quarterback from our draft class ever won a playoff game, and that quarterback literally went and lost the Super Bowl. And that, of course, was Clyde Stevenson, who then, preceding that, got kicked off his team. Like, what? Alright, guys, let's go into our final season. 1 sec. Guys, the final year. And something magical happened. Remember Matt Ray, the Bronco guy for forever? Yeah, he came out of retirement, and he's now in free agency again. So he was in free agency, and so he did retire, and then he came out of retirement just to, be in free agency again. I don't know why. Maybe he came out of retirement thinking that somebody was going to sign him. I'm not sure if he signed the preseason or something, and that was kind of made him think, oh, I could play again. But this is the final area we're in after 10 years. So the only guy really from the only first round pick, Bob Rankin, is still currently a starter in the NFL. He played 4 seasons with us, and sadly, the Bears never put him in over Justin Fields. They never gave up on Justin Fields, and that was their downfall. As even in this franchise, this last season, we went 6-11. Larry had 1 year that he started for the Commanders. Never did anything else but 1 year starting. Hit free agency, and then eventually just retired as he just gave up on football. 4th round pick. I just want to show you guys this real fast, just to kind of get a general gist. Yeah, okay, I'll do it like this. 4th round pick, Kirk Clemens. Started on the Jacksonville Jaguars in the 4th round. Then went to the Cleveland Browns. Then went to the Saints. And he finalized his career off with the Colts. For him, he's never hit free agency. But he's only started 1 game in his whole entire career. And that was with the Saints. So, nothing really special there. He went from the Jags, Browns, Saints, Colts. 5th round pick. This one was, of course, Sherman. Sherman played 4 seasons with the Denver Broncos. Looked like he was going to be there forever. Then, magically, they cut him. And he went over to 2 seasons of free agency. And then he joined the Washington Commanders before retiring after 1 more year in free agency. The next 5th round pick here was, of course, Clyde Stevenson, who got drafted by the Arizona Cardinals. Then he went to the Denver Broncos, Minnesota Vikings, and, of course, the Commanders. He is the only quarterback on this list to go to a Super Bowl, and obviously he did not win the Super Bowl in the end, and because of that, the Vikings cut him and moved on from him, which never really panned out for them in the end, as, again, you know, he really didn't do anything outside of that. So, he only played one season in his whole entire career, and that one season he went to the Super Bowl and lost it. So, shout out to him for that. He went to the Commanders the following year and was a backup, and then he hit free agency, and then he retired. So, again, like I said, most successful quarterback on this list right now, like, for Super Bowl-wise, was Clyde Stevenson. He was the most successful quarterback, period. The Packers drafted Glenn Bright with the 5th round pick in the 25th overall pick in the 5th round. He went ahead and played for the Packers and the Buccaneers, and he's never started an NFL game, and after 7 seasons, he finally hit free agency, and that's when he decided it was time to call it a career. So he retired right after that. The Buccaneers drafted Oliver O'Neill. He started on the Buccaneers in the 5th round, went to the Cowboys and Commanders. He's never started, sorry, my bad. His freshman year, he started 10 games for the Buccaneers. He was so bad, they canned him, drafted a new quarterback in the 1st round, and he never played a game again. He is still currently a quarterback on the Commanders roster, but he is not really anything special, and he is a backup. But he's never hit free agency, so that's actually interesting. Another player who never hit free agency was the Chiefs quarterback they took in the 5th round here, Philip Goldenstein. He went ahead and spent a total of, actually he did hit free agency, my bad. He hit free agency 1 year right here, but he did play 6 seasons with the Kansas City Chiefs before he hit free agency. Actually, no, he only played 4 seasons with the Chiefs. Then he went over to, what team is this? He went over to Commanders, then he went over to the Texans, and then he hit free agency again, and then he retired. 6th round pick. This is going to be none other than Charles Bayless. He started with the Miami Dolphins, then went to the Giants, and then the Packers. And he's only started 1 season in his career, and that was with the Packers, where it looked like he was the starting quarterback moving forward, but simply was not the case. After 1 season of starting him, 17 games, they drafted a new quarterback, and he found himself on the bench, and then eventually free agency, and eventually he retired because of that. Now, in all intents and purposes, the 2 quarterbacks who are the most successful outside of Super Bowls, or 1 Super Bowl, is going to be the 6th round pick here, the Vikings, Broncos, Browns, and then Dolphins quarterback Amari Curley, who played a total of 6 seasons. All 6 seasons as the starting quarterback. He's actually played congruently over the last 5 seasons as the Dolphins quarterback, but as a starting quarterback in the league. And then, of course, the second most successful is Steve Cousins. I will say he is the most successful, period, because he has won his division multiple times, and he has been a playoff quarterback multiple times. While Curry has definitely struggled when it comes to the quarterbacks, when it comes to, like, getting to the playoffs and stuff. That's not something that we've seen from Cousins. Cousins has been a consistent playoff team. While he might barely get in the playoffs, he still is getting in the playoffs, and that's all that matters. Some other busts here, Christopher Bryant and Scotty Floyd. Both of them did play for many teams, and both of them really didn't do much in their career. As you can see, they hit free agency and then retired. For the undrafted players, these are kind of interesting stories, because the most successful undrafted players here, starting off right away, the Jets drafted Andrew Worth. And after 2 seasons, they finally gave the guy a chance to be the starting quarterback. And what did they do? After 1 season, they get rid of him. He goes to the Raiders. He spends most of his time as a backup with the Raiders. And eventually, he does end up retiring. The second undrafted player, Rhett Caldwell, played 3 seasons. I think it was 2 seasons with the Colts. And then he played 2 seasons with the Texans before hitting free agency and then retiring. Next guy on this list here is going to be Matt Ray, and he is the most interesting guy out here because he is the player who actually retired, then came back from retirement to play yet again. So that is the interesting situation here, as he went ahead in his first 2 seasons, did not play for the Cowboys. Then he went to Denver. Once he went to Denver, he was a 3-year starting quarterback for the Denver Broncos before going ahead and going to the Arizona Cardinals, and then eventually becoming the starting quarterback for the Cowboys yet again. And he retired after that because I guess he wanted to retire a Cowboy after becoming the starting quarterback again. And then he comes back out of retirement the next year. So I don't even understand this guy at this point. But the next guy we have on this list here is going to go ahead and be the Ravens quarterback drafted or undrafted, which is Stephen Hamilton. Played a couple seasons for the Ravens before going to the Rams and the Lions. Hit free agency multiple years and then retired. Giants quarterback Hal Jones retired very early. Him and Doug Gaines, they retired after their 6th year in the NFL. Both of them did. And not surprising. I mean, other than a cool name, Hal Jones really didn't do anything, and neither did Doug Gaines. Keep in mind, guys, all of these players had superstar X Factor ability going into this season. Going into their seasons, they all had superstar X Factor coming out of the draft. And this is kind of how their careers went. And, you know, for better or for worse, it was definitely an interesting ride. And, you know, just a little final take here, guys. There we go. None of them are in the Super Bowl. So there's going to be no Super Bowl winning draft class quarterbacks out of this list. Only one quarterback made the Super Bowl, and only a couple won a playoff game in the end. I think it was a couple. It might have been like one actually won a playoff game. But let's go ahead and take a look at legacy score here. Actually, you know what? We're just going to kind of, let me think, because some of these quarterbacks are out, so let's just look at legacy score. I was going to look at their stats for their careers, but we kind of have general gist here, and most of them really haven't done anything in their careers. So, let's go with quarterbacks. Let me see if any of these guys pop up. They probably shouldn't because they're not really that good. Can I see, like, retired or Hall? Oh, it's not going to tell me. Okay, never mind. I'm probably not going to be able to see these guys. Unless I, like, sort it by this, and potentially then I might be able to see some of these guys. The problem is, if it's not a known player or they didn't really do that great, EA usually doesn't keep them in there. Probably for asset purposes. Like, there's no reason to use assets on a player that isn't that good. I mean, like O'Neal here, who has 27 legacy score, and like this is O'Neal's career, right? And O'Neal, just a side note here, he only started 1 year, and that was year 1. And you know, he played for 3 different teams and never really panned out for any of them. So overall wise, yeah, it was, even with the superstar X Factor ability going into their careers, it didn't really seem to affect anything, right? It didn't really seem to affect anything in any positive way where you looked at it and you're like, wow, this is the guy, this is actually really cool, they actually did this, this, and this. No, none of these guys you looked at and said, wow, this is like a superstar player. So yeah, man, that sucks too. I mean, I guess Rankin is like the most successful, and it kind of sucks too because I drafted him on this team starting off the video, but because I'm very, you know, not stubborn, but because I want to keep this honest, I wasn't going to control the team, and they completely butchered it. They butchered it in every way possible. So tell me down below your thoughts, opinions. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.